Hi everyone, Stacy Heisman here for GI Jobs Magazine. And with me today, I have a fantastic interview that I'm going to do with a person who has been working in the supply chain industry for several years now. I think it's about several decades. I think we could probably
Yeah.
allude to, right? Hi, Kat. This is Kat Burcar, and she is with Amarin, who is located in actually St. Louis, Missouri. But you're coming to us today from where?
Shiloh, Illinois.
Shiloh, Illinois. Excellent. So it sounds like you do a little bit remote work. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, before we get into where you work now, let's talk about what you did for the military during your service. Tell me a little bit about your service. Tell me your branch, how long you worked for, all that good stuff.
Okay. So I was in the Air Force for 20 years. I joined in April of 2000 and retired promptly at 20 years in April of 2020.
Promptly, just like
I,
that.
I retired as an E8 or senior master sergeant. And for 16 of those years, I worked in material management or supply chain, military logistics. And then for the other 4 years, I was a professional military education instructor. And I led a 5-week course for enlisted first line supervisors.
Interesting. Now tell me, did you like the teaching aspect of, being in the military and actually being an instructor? Did you like that part of it?
Yes, I did. It was a tough adjustment. But in the end, I think that was still to this day the best job I've ever had.
Oh my gosh, really? And I know we didn't really talk about this before, but tell me why you think that's the best job you've ever had before
Um,
this one.
One, it was very challenging. I really had to be on my game every single day because I always had 16 or more faces looking at me and looking to me to set the example. So pressure, right? But also, I learned from them probably more than they learned from me.
What a
And I
great way to put that.
I really think that they shaped what kind of leader and supervisor I was going forward. I went into that at 8 years of service and left after 4 years, so 12 years of service at that point. And I was a new supervisor when I had gone into that career field. And I had gone through the same class, but it was only 5 weeks. And I think it really shaped who I became as a leader and a supervisor and made me better off for it. So the subordinates that I had at my 12-year mark and
Mhm.
beyond got a better version of Senior Master Sergeant Burcar.
Okay, that says quite a bit, and I like that. Actually, so that actually is gonna translate well into the civilian workforce because it probably made you better at your job, more accountable to your people and your peers and people that work for you. Well, let's go back a little bit. Tell me a little bit about Amarin and what is Amarin? What kind of company is it?
Amarin Corporation is an energy company, and we supply electricity and gas for a large portion of both Missouri and Illinois. And I'm a
Okay,
customer myself.
okay, you're a customer yourself. So how long have you been with this job currently?
A year and a half.
A year and a half? I love it. Okay. So now going back a little bit, when you first joined the military, tell me about why you decided to join. What was your calling to that?
Honestly, I was bored, to be honest. I mean, when I look back at that time and look at how my career went after that, it seems like when I didn't know what else to do, I kind of just went down the course of taking a chance, not really something risky that's going to hurt me or somebody else, but really just stepping outside of my comfort zone and going towards something that seemed interesting from the outside, but I really had no idea about what was going on the inside. And looking back, that all started with deciding to join the military. I don't come from a family of career people. And I had a few family members that were in the Air Force. So
Mhm.
my grandparents and my aunt and my uncle. So at 19, I was just doing what everybody else was doing, which was going to school and working. I had been on an airplane a few times by the time I graduated. And on those trips, I had such a great time and realized I had such a love for travel that I needed to travel. And at some point, it just dawned on me that the military travels and I needed to go. So I went to a recruiter and I said, I want to join the Air Force. Some of my family was in the Air Force, and that's what I need to do. But I need to go as soon as possible, because if I tell anybody, they're going to talk me out of it. My friends and such.
Yeah.
So she made it happen. And within 3 weeks, I was gone. I didn't know what my job was going to be. I had no idea what I was getting into.
Isn't it
Obviously,
amazing? I mean, I'm just gonna
yeah.
say, isn't it amazing just that one decision to put you on a path that you're on right now? Even just us talking, like it just sent you on this pipeline that was pretty magnificent. Really changed
Yeah.
your trajectory, didn't it?
It did. And looking back on it, like, it was a wild ride. I had such a great time, and, met my now husband, and we have our family. And yeah, like, I think that girl back then, she knew what she was doing. She
She
didn't,
knew
she
what
didn't know what she was doing, but
but she
she
knew what
had
she was
something that she was looking for. And I think she found it. I
Oh,
think
I
she's
love
pretty
it. I
happy
love
to
it.
know where I'm at today.
And it's funny, I think, and the reason why I wanted to ask you that question is your answer. I think a lot of people can relate to that. How the military kind of steered them into the career that they're in now. Tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about what you do right now in your job.
Okay, so for Amarin, I am a supply chain specialist for inventory. And what I do is operational supply support for both internal and external customers. So what that entails is some demand planning, forecasting, procurement plans, and inventory strategies to make sure that we have the right material at the right time.
Sure. Now, why did you continue to choose, or why did you continue to like to do this type of job, the supply chain job, after you got out of the service? Is it just something that you're just naturally good at? Is it something that you're intuitive with? And tell me a little bit about how you got this job too.
Okay. So when I was starting to build my master resume, I had realized, as I was looking through my previous experience, like, while supply chain seemed to be the natural choice, but I started noticing, obviously, I could do training and development, I could do project management, I could do community relations, and leadership, right? So I don't know, it seemed like I was able to expand my scope a little bit more, but ultimately, I still ended up in supply chain role.
Hmm.
And I was able to land this role by participating in the Hiring Our Heroes corporate fellowship program. So St. Louis
Okay.
has a wide variety of corporate and community partners that participate in this program. And I was very fortunate to be able to get into the program at the right time. And Ameren just happened to be looking for someone to work supply chain. So I was able to interview for that and ultimately took on a full-time position.
I think that's fantastic. They're hiring for heroes. They have really made a lasting mark on the corporate world, bringing military members into the civilian employment. I love it. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we're going to wrap up a little bit, but I think it's important that people that you share your experience, the good and the bad. What kind of advice would you give someone, like yourself, about ready to get out after 20 years? What would you do differently? The good, what would you do the same? What would you do differently? Tell me.
So short answer is what I would do differently. And what I would do differently is prepare myself for Microsoft Excel. I did not know that Excel actually ran the world.
It really does, doesn't it? And if you're
It-
bad at it, it shows like you instantly. That's so funny. That's so
yeah.
relatable.
So I wish I would have had taken more time, or there would have been more opportunity or more pressure to learn more about that. There were people I worked with that were really good with Excel, so I just kind of leaned on them. But I really wish that there was a little bit more emphasis on it, and I wish I would have known more. I know enough to get by, and I'm still learning so much every single day. And thankfully, I work for a really great team that helps me along the way and knows some of my disabilities in that regard. Um, but so yeah, so that's what I wish I could have done differently. But we're making it.
Sure.
Advice for people who are going through the transition process is, when I was going through, I just kind of thought, I need to replace my military job with another job. So I guess I was just kind of planning that I would take every opportunity to interview, and I would probably just take the very first job offer because I needed to replace that job. And if someone's going to hire me at my age, without a master's degree. You know, they're probably doing it because I'm a veteran or out of the kindness of their heart. But somebody had said this piece of advice in one of the transition classes or seminars that I had attended that I was just like, oh, this is so true. When you leave the military, you have the freedom to choose. So for so many years in the military, whether you spend 5 years or 10 years or 20 plus years like I did, you don't really have a lot of opportunity or say so in where you work at, and what job you fill, and maybe a little bit of an idea of what base you get to go to. And there are some opportunities for you to apply for a job and go through an interview process for a special duty. But not everybody gets that opportunity. So leaving, I was like, oh, okay. So when I'm being interviewed, I can also interview the company because they're looking for a good fit. I want a good fit. And if I get the first offer of something I just realized during the interview that wasn't a good fit, I can respectfully decline. Thanks for the opportunity, but I have to, pass on this opportunity and hold out for something that was really a better fit for myself and for my family. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice is don't forget that you have the freedom to choose. You don't have to go back into something that you're just familiar with or take the first job offer that comes your way.
You know what? I love the fact that you just flipped the script because a lot of veterans who get out really have this urge to replace the job that you were, just exactly what you said. They have to plug it, they have to do it, and to be able to choose. I think that really empowers them, and clearly it empowered you. So, and when you say you actually chose Ameren, I truly believe you chose that company to work for, and I think
I
that
did.
by itself speaks volumes about you and Ameren. So, on that note, I just want to thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story of transition because I think it's important that other veterans hear your story so they understand that they're not alone. And I think I think you are incredibly relatable. And so, Kat, thank you so much for joining us today. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks, Stacy. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. I'm Stacy Heisman for GI Jobs, and thank you, Kat Burcar from Ameren, for joining us. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye-bye.